So welcome everyone. Today we have Dr. Bill and Aiden joining us to discuss their collaborative work on analyzing US job deficits through macroeconomic research. We'll be exploring both the manuscript they have prepared for journal submission and the pamphlet intended for educators of macroeconomics. So let's start with an overview of the project. So, Dr. Bill, can you give us an overview of the project and its significance in the field of macroeconomics?
Good afternoon or good morning, Annie. And what I would say is, this kind of a challenge of how do we communicate with students? What do we use the details of the information we have to explain things? It's kind of a convoluted way to say what we're trying to do is look at what's happening in the economic world around us and explain it. Give it into a way that folks can understand what it means and really how do we interpret that. Now, that interpretation side, that really falls back into the class and the setting that I make, that I bring out all the things of macroeconomics in this case to say really what we're going to do in macroeconomics. If you ask me, what is this class all about? I'd say this very first and foremost is about the gross domestic product of the country. But how do we get to that GDP? We get to it through employment numbers. So that's one of the big foci that we make throughout the class series is to say, how can we articulate how many people are employed in this economy? Okay, that's the big step into this. And we use some of the data that we have available through Big Clearinghouse. I like to talk about the Federal Reserve Economic Data Portal. Okay, that's where the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics and other federal agencies present their data. So in class, what we do is we pull those data out. We start to analyze them. And this revealed a whole variety of insights that we get to see and try to interpret what they mean. So that really became the genesis of this entire project, is to say, you interpret this, you articulate what it shows, and then we see what really is standing out very fervently as a job deficit in the US economy. Because one of the things we use to describe it is the unemployment rate. Okay, that unemployment rate is pretty important, but right now we know that it's about 5%. But golly, we look at the number of people employed versus those don't have a job, and we see a big job deficit. That's what this shows. And it's so striking the difference, the way to change that or way to explain that, present it to everybody. It starts a lot of discussions. And right there is exactly what I wanted to see throughout this entire series, is to give students the idea to be able to talk about what they see, why they see it. Why does this show something of this nature? So that's exactly what I turned out for the class. And this started out as a classroom assignment. And in my flipped classroom approach, what I try to do is give everybody the chance to get the basic information first and then come to class. And in the class, we have the ability to really discuss, define with example, everything we see. And that became the great part about what you see here is I took the papers of a couple of students, Aiden and Chase, to say, now we're going to describe that in a very bigger way, in a bigger way, a way that other people could understand what kind of conclusions they came up with. And it became very striking. And right away, it became just from two standpoints. Can this be something that other educators, other economists would want to see? And it is. It's a very different way of kind of peeling this tomato or this onion, try to figure out what is inside of that. How do we describe it? So that became the entire genesis of what you see here, and really has two reports. One is this profile that, or this pamphlet that would go out to other educators in macroeconomics, but it's a long document. But we can shorten that down and make it into a journal article that would be fodder and information for other economists in the United States and really around the world.
Okay, perfect. And Aiden, can you share your experience working on this project and the insights you gained from your analysis?
Yeah, so kind of like Dr. Bill said, this kind of all started out as an in-class project. So we spent a lot of time. Well, he first introduced us to the Federal Economic Data, the FRED site, and that's where we could, that's where all the data was. And he kind of taught us how to make that data in Excel and get those charts, how to produce them yourself. So that kind of made the data more valuable because you're able to, like, when you're working with it, you kind of have a better understanding of what's happening. And so with that, we kind of we made the graph, and then we made the trend line. And the trend line is what really kind of opened up our eyes to everything, because there's just this huge deficit in employment. And um that's kind of where we have these questions like, why is this happening? Why can't we see what we saw in the past? And through that, we were able to find a lot of insights on the 2008 Great Recession, the 2020 COVID recession, and even some immigration and the labor force age. So a lot of good stuff from that.
Perfect, thank you. So, Dr. Bill, what were some of the challenges you faced while integrating student research into the comprehensive manuscript?
Well, that's a very good question, because the challenge then is to take what the students did, given the insights they had, just like Aiden just said, talking about that trend line. It's really a different way to analyze these data, different tools that we have available. So pulling that out and starting to write up kind of my approach on this. What I try to do is first give everything I can into the manuscript. What did it start from? What is the development? What is the background research? And build it up, build it up. And as everything I do, it's too long. Just like my classes. If I go off the script, man, it's going to be a long class because I just can't stop talking. But okay, so here's why I step into this whole round, is to say, now what I ended up with is about a, oh golly, 25-page document. Oh man, that's way more than any journal article would want. But right away, I could spin that around to say that big manuscript now, 25-page document, that is something that other educators might be able to use. Bring it into their classrooms and say, well, I'm not going to do it just like Dr. Bill did, but I'll do it my way. And using this as a catalyst to say, this is a way that can spur some thoughts in other educators, and they're going to come up with different results, which is fantastic. Everybody can spin this and roll their own and say, this is now a way that they can put it into play, pull it into how their pedagogy develops. So along with that, now my first goal was to make that journal article, which, okay, I can do it, but now what I can do is trim that article down. That gives me the ability to have the two different documents going hand in hand. So that's the approach. And right now, we've got the feelers out to a couple of economics journals asking if they have interest in this. And I know, being at the end of the school year and coming into summer, that some of the journals may have a little bit of a lag time before they can act on this, but that's all right. We're getting it developed and making sure that it becomes part of the lexicon of how we do our business.
Okay, thank you. So, Aiden, can you elaborate on how the flipped classroom model and experiential learning approach influenced your research findings?
Yeah, so the flipped classroom approach is kind of where we're just, he's assigning us, we have a chapter to read every class, or every Tuesday. So once a week, you're reading the chapter, then you're watching the lecture video. And for this project, it was really helpful because we kind of had that, like, baseline info on, like what can happen within employment, and the different types of unemployment and other things that can like affect employment levels. And it was good to go into class having that knowledge, because when we get this project, and it's a project where we're kind of the experiential learning, like it's hands-on, we're making the graph. And that's kind of where it all ties together, because you have that background info, and now that you have the data, you're creating questions for yourself that in turn you can go answer.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
So, Dr. Bill, why did you decide to create both a journal article and a pamphlet for educators? And how do you envision these two formats being used?
Well, I went into the process of saying this manuscript that we've developed now together, and working with the students who are part of making this all happen. Bringing that into the journal article and into the pamphlet is the idea that there it puts it into a phase that other people can use it. Okay, on the one side, you got the journal articles. Okay, that goes out to the big broad world, and they don't get the background story on how everything was developed. That becomes quite a bit of a challenge as we start to bring in, the professor has an article, but then with students as the co-authors, we're bringing in a lot more depth of how they came up with those values. Just like Aiden was just saying, it is the experiential learning of doing things in the classroom, doing things on their computers, in their own minds. And as soon as they can start to articulate that and bring it out, that is the value of that pamphlet that we're talking about. Sideline that with the actual journal article that would be published, that's going to be a thinner picture. So it becomes something that they have to get value out of that shorter, much, much shorter document. We're talking about something that may be 10,000 words for the pamphlet, but a journal article wants 2,000 words. So holy cow, you're down to a fifth of the size, and right away you just start to hit it with saying, how much value can I really parse out of this? That's why the pamphlet. That's why other educators, and it's going to start here in Spokane Falls Community College, and then be trickling out from there so that educators who want to use this kind of an approach can really make it a part of their teaching portfolio.
Thank you. All right, Aiden, what were some of the most surprising findings or moments for you during the research project?
I think for me the most surprising find was just how large the deficit was. Like, because right now we're sitting at a place where unemployment is at 3.9%, which, if you think about it, like that's better than perfect because we're supposed to be shooting for a 5%. And to find out that there's 64 million people like that are, not employed right now based on trends that we'd seen in the past is really surprising. And I think just another one that was super surprising was just how much just investments in technology have really affected employment because, whether just how important immigration and the aging labor force are, just really surprising to see how that like now that the labor force is older, there's less people in the workforce right now, and just how immigration can affect some of those lower skilled jobs as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Dr. Bill, how do you plan to disseminate the findings of this research to a broader audience, and what impacts do you hope it will have?
Well, how do I want to disseminate this? Well, that in one side, it's the saying, if you build it, they'll come. Doesn't work like that at all. But what I can say is that if you can put this out into two different profiles there, one is a journal article. They get wide dissemination, especially the Journal of Economics and Economic Research. That kind of a journal gets a lot of readership. And the biggest value there is if we get the journal article published like that, then we can have a link to a portfolio page or profile page where educators could come to the bigger document and grab it that way. But really trying to make them go through a lot of websites to find the document, it's not going to work so well. Better for that is to put it into the hands of educators here and start to build up the success that we have within this college. Because there's other teachers of economics here at Spokane Falls Community College. And from those faculty, as they integrate it and they have success, that success is what is going to happen to build this out. Other people are going to want to say, yeah, I want a piece of that success. How did you do it? Boom, they start to share these kind of things, get that profile put out. It's not going to be immediate. It's not like a wildfire is going to hit, but we will get the idea of people saying, I want to integrate what happened there. How did you do it? And start to learn new things about this flipped classroom and different things like that. So for me, what I have done is to put all of my lecture videos that Aiden was talking about a moment ago up to YouTube. On that YouTube page, it's Dr. Bill's economics site. There you can find this playlists of all the different videos, and I have links there to various documents like the profile and the journal article that'll come out of this to be able to be available to everybody who grabs it in different ways. So it's going to trickle out that ripple effect. Okay, we're going to try to get it out into that bigger lexicon of how everybody is really growing what they see here and what they want to replicate. So
Okay.
tell a friend, would you? And just share it.
Will do. All right, and lastly, Aiden, what advice would you give to other students who might be interested in participating in similar research projects?
I think the biggest thing is just to stay super curious about what's happening and to just have a lot of fun with it, because the way that the class is set up, you're really going and getting your own data, and it's kind of just an open world to whatever, like, you've read the chapter, you've seen what can impact these things, so go do the research and find out what's happening. And it kind of, when you can just stay curious about it and have fun, it feels like you're just putting together a puzzle and working towards the answer.
All right, thank you. Thank you both so much for sharing your insights and your experiences. This has been a very enlightening discussion about your collaborative work on US job deficits and its implications for macroeconomic education. We look forward to seeing the impact of your research in both the academic and educational communities. Thank you both so much.